The sound of the auction hammer echoed across the dusty square of Redemption Creek, Montana Territory, 1876. As Nathaniel Reed watched the woman with the scar across her cheek step onto the wooden platform, her gaze fixed on the distant mountains as if she'd rather be anywhere but here. The Montana summer sun beat down mercilessly on the small frontier town as Nathaniel adjusted his worn Stetson, his eyes never leaving the woman. Her hands were bound with rough rope, her simple cotton dress torn and soiled from the journey. But it wasn't her tattered appearance that caught his attention. It was the jagged scar that ran from her right temple down to her jawline, and the fierce dignity with which she held herself, despite it. "Next up, we have this here indentured servant," bellowed the auctioneer, a portly man with a greasy mustache and liquor on his breath. "Contract's got 4 years left on it. Previous owner passed on, so his debts transfer to whoever takes her. Bit damaged in the face, as you can see, but strong and healthy otherwise." Nathaniel felt a surge of disgust at how the woman was being described like livestock. His ranch was doing well enough, and he'd come to town for supplies, not to purchase a human being's contract. Yet he couldn't tear his eyes away from her. There was something hauntingly familiar about the way she stood, shoulders back, chin raised, even as the crowd muttered unkind remarks about her appearance. "Starting bid at $20, the auctioneer continued. "Who'll give me 20 for this fine worker?" The silence that followed was deafening. Nathaniel glanced around at the townsfolk who had gathered for the auction. Most were looking away uncomfortably or shaking their heads. Selling indentured contracts wasn't uncommon in these parts, but it wasn't something decent folks celebrated either. $15 then. The auctioneer tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. $50, Nathaniel called out, surprising himself as much as everyone else in the square. The auctioneer's eyebrows shot up. $50 from Mr. Reed. Do I hear 60? No one spoke. The woman's gaze finally shifted from the mountains to land on Nathaniel, her green eyes wide with a mixture of suspicion and something else he couldn't quite name. "Sold to Mr. Nathaniel Reed for $50. The auctioneer's hammer came down with finality. Nathaniel made his way through the dispersing crowd to the platform. Up close, he could see that her chestnut hair was streaked with premature silver at the temples, though she couldn't have been more than 25. The scar was more pronounced, a raised, angry line that spoke of violence survived. "Your papers, Mr. Reed," the clerk said, handing over the indenture contract. "And your property?" The woman flinched at the word, and Nathaniel was quick to correct the man. "Her name is," he paused, realizing he didn't know. "Zara," she said, her voice low and melodic with a hint of an accent he couldn't place. "Zara Blackwood." "Zara," Nathaniel repeated, the name feeling right on his tongue. "I'm Nathaniel Reed. I have a ranch about 5 miles outside of town." She nodded curtly, still guarded. "I can cook, clean, tend animals. I earn my keep, Mr. Reed." "I'm sure you do," he said softly as he untied her hands. "Can you ride?" "Yes." "Good. We'll get my supplies and head out. You must be hungry." As they walked toward the general store, Nathaniel was acutely aware of the stares they attracted. Zara kept her scarred side angled away from onlookers, a habit she'd clearly developed over time. "Don't mind them," he said quietly. "Small towns run on gossip. They'll find something new to talk about by sundown." Inside the store, he purchased extra supplies: flour, sugar, coffee, and a bolt of blue cotton fabric that matched the color of the Montana sky. When he placed it in her arms, Zara looked genuinely surprised. "For a new dress," he explained. "And whatever else you might need." She clutched the fabric like it was something precious. "Thank you, Mr. Reed." "Nathaniel," he corrected, "or Nate, if you prefer." They rode out of town as the afternoon shadows began to lengthen. Nathaniel's ranch, Pine Ridge, was nestled in a valley with a clear creek running through it. The main house was modest but well-built, 2 stories of weathered pine with a wide porch and a stone chimney. A barn, corral, and bunkhouse completed the homestead. "It's not much," he said as they approached, "but it's home." Zara took it all in with careful eyes. It's beautiful, she said, and he could tell she meant it. As they dismounted, a grizzled old cowboy emerged from the barn. About time you got back, Nate. That new foal's been giving us fits all. He stopped short when he spotted Zara. Frank, this is Zara Blackwood, Nathaniel said. She'll be staying with us. Zara, this is Frank Miller, my foreman and the closest thing to family I've got out here. Frank nodded politely, his curious gaze lingering briefly on her scar before he turned back to Nathaniel. I'll put up the horses. You two must be tired from the ride. Inside the house, Nathaniel showed Zara to a small but clean bedroom off the kitchen. It's yours for as long as you're here, he said. Get some rest. We can talk more in the morning. Later that night, after a simple supper where conversation had been stilted and formal, Nathaniel sat on his porch watching the stars emerge. He heard the door open behind him and turned to see Zara step out, wrapped in a shawl against the evening chill. May I join you? She asked hesitantly. Of course. She settled into the chair beside his, her gaze lifting to the star-strewn sky. I've been wondering something, Mr. Reed, Nathaniel, he reminded her. Nathaniel, she amended. Why did you buy my contract? You don't seem the type to need service. He was quiet for a long moment, watching the way the moonlight illuminated half her face while casting the scarred side in shadow. The truth is, when I saw you standing there, I thought, he took a deep breath. You look just like someone I loved, someone I lost. Zara's expression softened with surprise. I remind you of someone, my wife, Eleanor, he said, the name still difficult to speak aloud even after 5 years. She died in 71. Fever took her and our unborn child. I'm sorry, Zara said gently, but surely she didn't. Her hand unconsciously drifted toward her scar. No, Nathaniel agreed. It's not the scar, it's your eyes, the way you hold yourself, something in your spirit that reminds me of her. They sat in silence for a while, the night sounds of the ranch enveloping them. How did you get it? Nathaniel finally asked. If you don't mind my asking. Zara tensed, and for a moment he thought she wouldn't answer. My previous owner, she said, the word bitter on her tongue. He had a temper and a knife. Anger flared in Nathaniel's chest. The man who died, she nodded, 3 weeks ago, fell from his horse drunk and broke his neck. The bank took everything, including my contract. Well, Nathaniel said firmly, you have nothing to fear here. You have my word on that. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm. Zara proved herself to be an exceptional cook and housekeeper, transforming the bachelor's home into something warm and inviting. She used the blue fabric to make not only a new dress, but curtains for the kitchen windows as well. Nathaniel, for his part, made sure she was treated with respect by everyone on the ranch. The hands were initially curious about the scarred woman, but they quickly came to appreciate her cooking and her quiet efficiency. One evening in late August, Nathaniel returned from checking the north pasture to find Zara in the barn, gently talking to a skittish colt that had been refusing everyone's attempts to halter it. There now, she murmured, her palm flat with an offering of oats. No one's going to hurt you. That's it. The colt stretched its neck, nostrils flaring, then tentatively stepped forward to eat from her hand. Zara smiled, a real smile that transformed her face, and Nathaniel felt something shift inside him, like a door opening that had long been closed. You have a way with him, Nathaniel said, stepping into view. Zara looked up, not startled but not hiding her smile either. He's just frightened, aren't you, boy? She stroked the colt's forehead. Sometimes all it takes is patience and trust, Nathaniel added, moving closer. Something that doesn't come easy to either horses or people who have been hurt. Zara's eyes met his, a moment of perfect understanding passing between them. No, she agreed softly. It doesn't. That night they talked longer than usual on the porch, Zara gradually sharing pieces of her past. She'd come from Ireland as a child, her family seeking the promise of America only to find hardship instead. Her parents had died of cholera when she was 16, leaving her alone and vulnerable. The indenture had seemed like her only option for survival. I had 2 years left on my original contract when Mr. Blackwood won it in a card game, she explained. He added 2 more years for what he called the trouble of taking me on. It was difficult. And now you're here with 4 years on your contract to me, Nathaniel said thoughtfully. Yes. There was resignation in her voice. "What if we tore it up?" he suggested suddenly. "You could stay or go as you please." Zara looked at him with disbelief. "You would do that? The contract was never what I wanted," he admitted. "I just couldn't bear to see you up on that platform like that." "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked, searching his face. "Because everyone deserves kindness, Zara, especially those who have seen too little of it." The autumn brought the cattle drive, with Nathaniel and most of the hands gone for 2 weeks. Zara kept the ranch running smoothly in his absence, proving herself capable of far more than housekeeping. When they returned, dusty and exhausted but successful, Nathaniel found the house warm and welcoming, with a feast prepared and hot water ready for bathing. "You're a miracle," he told her as she served him a second helping of stew. "I don't know how to thank you." "Having a home is thanks enough," she replied, but there was color in her cheeks that hadn't been there before. That night, after everyone had eaten their fill and retired, Nathaniel found Zara once again on the porch, wrapped in a shawl against the October chill. "I missed this while I was gone," he said, settling beside her. "Watching the stars with you." "I missed it too," she admitted. The nights were too quiet with everyone away. "Zara," he began, then hesitated. "I've been thinking, your contract, please," she interrupted. "I don't want to talk about that tonight. Can we just enjoy being here, now?" He nodded, respecting her wish, though the folded paper in his pocket seemed to burn against his chest. They sat in comfortable silence until Zara shivered in the cool night air. "You're cold," Nathaniel observed. "We should go inside." "Not yet," she said. "It's too beautiful out here." Without thinking, he put his arm around her shoulders. She stiffened momentarily, then relaxed against him, her head coming to rest on his shoulder. They stayed that way until the moon was high overhead, neither speaking, both acutely aware of something changing between them. Winter came early that year, with the first snow falling before Thanksgiving. The ranch hands who didn't live in the bunkhouse full-time headed to town or to family for the season, leaving Nathaniel, Zara, Frank, and 2 younger cowboys to tend to the essential work. The days grew shorter, and evenings were spent around the fire in the main house. Frank taught Zara to play chess, which she took to with natural strategy. The younger cowboys, Noah and Thomas, often played cards or told stories of their adventures before Pine Ridge. Nathaniel watched Zara bloom in these months. She laughed more freely, spoke her mind without hesitation, and no longer angled her scarred side away from view. She had become an essential part of the ranch and of his life. It was 2 days before Christmas when disaster struck. A blizzard had been raging for hours when Frank burst into the house, his beard crusted with ice. "Fire in the barn," he shouted. Lightning strike, they all rushed out into the howling storm. Through the swirling snow, Nathaniel could see flames already licking at the barn's roof. Inside were not only valuable equipment but 6 horses, including the colt that had grown so attached to Zara. "The animals," Zara cried, already running toward the inferno. "Zara, wait," Nathaniel called, but she was already ahead of him, her determination giving her speed. They reached the barn together, Frank and the boys close behind. The heat was intense, the smoke thick and choking. Nathaniel and Frank managed to open the stalls, freeing most of the horses, who bolted into the safety of the corral. But the colt was panicking, rearing, and striking out in terror. "Storm," Zara called to the colt, pushing past Nathaniel toward the frightened animal. "Come on, boy," a burning beam crashed down, blocking Nathaniel's path. Through the flames, he could see Zara reaching for the colt's halter, talking to him in that soothing way of hers. The animal calmed just enough for her to lead him toward the door. Another crack from above the roof was giving way. "Zara, run," Nathaniel shouted. She pushed the colt ahead of her just as a section of the roof collapsed. The horse made it to safety, but Zara disappeared in a shower of burning debris. "Zara," Nathaniel's scream tore from his throat as he lunged forward, heedless of the danger. Frank and the boys tried to hold him back, but he fought free, plunging into the smoke and flames. He found her pinned beneath a fallen beam, unconscious but alive. With strength born of desperation, he lifted the burning wood and pulled her free, carrying her through the flames and out into the snowy night. The barn was lost, but the house and other buildings were spared thanks to the blizzard's snow and the men's efforts to contain the blaze. Zara had suffered burns on her arms and smoke inhalation, but miraculously, nothing worse. Nathaniel refused to leave her side as she drifted in and out of consciousness in her bed on Christmas morning, her eyes finally opened fully, clear and aware. "Nathaniel," she whispered, her voice raspy from the smoke. "I'm here," he said, taking her hand gently. "You're safe. The Colt storm." "He's fine, thanks to you." Nathaniel's voice broke. "You could have been killed, Zara. When I saw you go down," he couldn't continue. She squeezed his hand weakly. "I couldn't leave him, I know." He brought her hand to his lips. "It's one of the things I love about you." Her eyes widened at his words. "Nathaniel, I love you, Zara," he said, the admission flooding him with relief. "I think I have since the moment I saw you standing on that auction platform, not because you reminded me of Alina, but because of who you are, your strength, your kindness. Your beautiful spirit." Tears filled her eyes. "But my scar is part of you," he finished. "Part of what makes you the woman I love." He reached into his pocket and pulled out her indenture contract. "I've been carrying this for months, wanting the right moment." He tore the paper in half, then in quarters. "You're free, Zara, free to stay or go as you choose." She looked at the torn pieces of paper, then back to his face. "And if I choose to stay, not as your servant, but as my wife," he said, his heart pounding, "if you'll have me." Her answer was to pull him down for a kiss, tender and new, but filled with promise. They were married on New Year's Day, 1877, in the front room of the ranch house. Frank stood as Nathaniel's best man, and the whole town turned out despite the snow, curious to see the scarred woman who had captured Nathaniel Reed's heart. Spring brought new beginnings. The barn was rebuilt, bigger and stronger than before. The ranch prospered under their joint care. And in April, Zara shared the news that they would have a child by winter's return. One evening in late summer, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, Nathaniel's hand rested on the gentle swell of Zara's belly. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, covering his hand with hers. "How strange life is," he replied. "If I hadn't gone to town that day, if you hadn't been standing on that platform, if you hadn't thought I looked like someone you loved," she added with a smile. "I was wrong about that, you know," he said, turning to face her. "You reminded me of Alina in some ways, yes, but you're entirely yourself, Zara Reed, and it's just you that I love with all my heart." She leaned in to kiss him, no longer self-conscious about the scar that curved with her smile. "And I love you, Nathaniel Reed, for seeing me, the real me." Their daughter, Nora Alina Reed, was born on a snowy December night, with Frank pacing nervously outside and Nathaniel holding Zara's hand through every moment. She had her father's dark hair and her mother's green eyes, perfect and healthy in every way. As Zara held their daughter to her breast for the first time, Nathaniel watched them with wonder. "She's beautiful," he whispered, "like her mother." Zara looked up at him, her face radiant with joy and exhaustion. "She's our miracle." "One of many," he agreed, kissing her forehead. Over the years, Pine Ridge Ranch grew and flourished. Zara's colt, Storm, sired a line of strong, intelligent horses that became known throughout the territory. Nathaniel and Zara added 2 more children to their family, twin boys who had their mother's spirit and their father's steady nature. The scar on Zara's face faded somewhat with time, but never disappeared entirely. She wore it not as a mark of shame, but as a testament to survival, to the journey that had brought her to Nathaniel and the life they built together. Travelers passing through often remarked on the unusual sight of the ranch's mistress riding alongside her husband, checking cattle and training horses with equal skill. Her scarred face turned confidently to the sun. And they would hear the story of how Nathaniel Reed had gone to town for supplies one summer day in 1876, and returned with the woman who would transform not only his ranch but his heart. On their 20th anniversary, with their children grown or nearly so, Nathaniel and Zara sat once again on their porch, watching the stars emerge over the Montana hills. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't bought my contract that day?" Zara asked, her head resting on his shoulder just as it had that first night so long ago. I don't have to wonder, Nathaniel replied, his arm secure around her waist. I would have found you somehow. Some things are meant to be, no matter what stands in their way. Like a cowboy and a scarred girl, she teased gently. Like two people who were broken finding wholeness together, he corrected, turning to look into the green eyes that still captivated him after all these years. As the night deepened around Pine Ridge Ranch, their silhouettes merged into one against the silver glow of the Montana moon, a testament to love that sees beyond scars to the beauty of the soul beneath.